Hello everyone, this is Brock Skaggs. In this video we're going to take a look at if-then style statements inside of VBA. And so there's a if-then statement, and there's a lot of different kind of offshoots from it. And so we'll start off fairly basic and then work our way up. If-then statements are what I call logic structures. Basically there are ways for you to make decisions with your code. And so we'll just go public sub, simple if-then, and write our first if-then statement. And so say we have a variable called credit hours as double, and it represents the number of credit hours passed by a student. And so we'll assume 15-hour semesters, so 30 hours per academic year. And so as soon as they got to 60 credit hours, they would be considered an upperclassman, basically a junior level. And so let's have something that makes that decision. It says, hey, if credit hours is, we'll say 55 right now, if credit hours becomes greater than or equal to 60, then we'll label them as upper class, and else it'll be lower class. And so we can do that pretty easily. We can say something like, if credit hours is equal or is greater than or equal to 60, then we'll need a variable in here, dim class str as string. We'll set class str is equal to upper for upper class, or we could say something like, if credit hours is less than 60, then class string is equal to lower. And we'll debug.print class string. And so right now, if we walk through this, we've got credit hours at 55. 55 is not greater than or equal to 60, so this should evaluate to false, and we should not have it set here. Credit hours 55 is less than 60, and so it should go in there, get set at lower, and then we print out lower there, which makes sense. And so one way we could do this is set this up just like we have. Notice we can do them inline, or we could also write this like so, and move this down into here. Same thing with this guy, and have that end if finish it off, since it's not all in one line here. I usually do this way. The majority of the time, you would actually really have to do it this way if you had multiple statements. And so maybe we have this statement, and then we have another statement here where we're doing something else there. And so just be aware of that. We can have it evaluate the other way. We'll say it's 63, and it would come through and evaluate, and you can see the second time I went through it was upper there. So that's a very simplistic if-then. One of the things that's not so great about this is that even if it evaluates to true here, so I'll put a breakpoint in, run it to here. Okay, class string is now upper. There's really no need to evaluate down here, right, as well. And so we could kind of make this a little bit more efficient by doing something like, well, if credit hours is greater than or equal to 60, then call class upper, else class string needs to be called lower. And so we'll have the same functionality here, except we won't have any of this code right there. And so again, let's look at this now. F5 here goes through. Credit hours is currently set to 63. 63 is greater than or equal to 60, so it gets hit here. But notice now it doesn't even look at the second part, and goes through and goes to upper. If I have this at 44 and rerun, it returns false here because credit hours is less than 60. It goes right into the else statement. Class is now lower, and it prints out lower there. And so that's one where if we're splitting something up into two halves, it can either go one way or other. We can do something pretty easily like that. One of the things we could also do is have more complex things that we're testing. And so here we're just testing one number, okay, if it's greater than or equal to 60. Let's say we have multiple conditions that have to happen for an event to occur. And so we'll say public sub, we'll call this complex test. It won't be terribly complex. And we'll see something here. And so let's say we have a couple of ranges we're interested in. And so I've got Excel open here. We'll say dim RNG as range, and set RNG equal to sheet1.range A1. And we'll say dim RNG2 as range, and we'll set that RNG2 equal to sheet1.range B1. And say we want to test these things, and we'll say something like if is numeric range 1 dot value, and so this is basically going to say is the value that's held in range 1 going to be a number, and if is numeric of range 2 dot value, so if both of these things happen, then oops, okay, let's get out of there. I didn't want too many parentheses. Then we'll take some action, and that action is going to be we'll say with sheet 1 dot range C1, and with we'll say dot interior dot color index equals 3. That'll paint it red, and then we'll say value and put here, and we'll put something like a D there for now and a 1 there. And so right now what happens is if I go through and evaluate this, nothing at all. I can show you that I'm evaluating it by putting the breakpoint. We can run to the breakpoint here, and the value inside of range 1, or the range variable is 1, and range 2 is a D. This evaluates to true, is numeric. This is going to evaluate to false. Both of these are not true, so then we just skip right out of the F8 and go through. I can change this back over and make this a number. And go back in, hit F5 and walk through it. Now we've got range holding the value 1, which is numeric, and range 2 holding the value 133, which is also numeric. And so we'll then go into the if-then statement. Now we set it to red. Now we set the value is here, and we close out there. And so there are times where you're going to have multiple things that have to happen in order for some section of code in your if-then statement to happen, and so you start just logically grouping those. You have things like and or in there that you can also use to logically group things together to make them, or make your code act the way you want it to, as far as make a little bit more complex decisions. And I guess one of the things that we haven't introduced, we've seen the if-then statements, very simple like this. This is one where you'd have to do it not in line because I've got multiple things happening here. We've also seen the if-else statement. We've seen complex conditions having to happen, and let's try the else if. And so public sub else if test. And so the else if is similar to this right here, except for maybe it doesn't just go one of two ways. Maybe there's multiple things that can happen. And so we'll do something like dim current time as date time, and I'll say current time is equal to now. You'll be able to see when I made this video. And we'll say, okay, depending on what day of the week, we'll print a certain message to the immediate window. And so we'll say something about if weekday of current time is equal to 1, then there's a certain value. And I could do this as then, let's say, then debug.print Sunday. And let's just show this one way so we can see the power of the else if. And so I would need 7 of these. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I don't know if I got the 7 there, so I'll go once more here. And so each one of these would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Leave this last one off. And so 1 is Sunday. That would make this Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday there. And so if I go through and run this, hit F5, it's going to check every one of these if statements. So it's currently not Sunday, and so it shouldn't go there. I'll just hover over it. Might be able to tell us. Didn't come up with a tooltip, so we'll just keep going. It's currently test neighbor 1. Finally, it's Saturday. It is Saturday, and so it should have printed off Saturday. Let's see if we can pull this immediate window up a little bit so you can see that it did print off Saturday. But that's very inefficient, right? It doesn't need to test all these if it happened to be Sunday and it hit there. And so one way you can make this a little more efficient is with the else if statement. And so each one of these I could say something like else if, else if, else if, else if, else if, and else if. And so what's going to happen here is it wouldn't have to test it all the way through. In this case, our condition happens to be true on the very bottom one, and so it's still going to go through and test else if, and if. Else without if. Now let's clean this up a little bit. Here I really should be putting these in new lines, so let's go something like this. Else if here, else if then here, here, there, there, and see if we can make it happy at this point. There. And so we'll run through. Okay, in this case it's going to go all the way through because it happens to be Saturday. Let's say current time, well, and instead of being current time, let's make it the date, literal. Today's the 21st, the 22nd, the 23rd would be Monday, so I'll put 1/23/17. And so what's going to happen here is that it shouldn't go through and test all the way down to Saturday if it's going to be Monday. And so we'll just step through F8 and notice it picked up that it was Monday, so it's debug printing Monday, but notice it jumped right from Monday all the way down to the end if. It didn't test 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 because we hit something that we needed in the else if statement there. And so if you've got multiple items that can be tested, this else if's a little bit better way to go than just the straight if then, because it's not going to waste its time checking things after it's already found a condition that works for it. And so just keep that in mind when you're writing your if statements, controlling logic in your code. That might save you a couple steps there in terms of what the program's actually looking at. And so that's been a brief look at if-then statements and all their different types of forms inside of VBA. Hopefully that helps you develop some code to make some decisions. Thanks for watching the video.